Welcome back to the deep dive. I am honestly so excited to get into this today
Yeah.
because we have a stack of research on the desk that tells a story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a story that I think is going to haunt me a little bit in a good way. It's equal parts inspiring and, if I'm being totally honest with you, absolutely terrifying.
It is a cautionary tale through and through. It's one of those stories that makes you freeze and, take inventory of your own body while you're listening to it.
Exactly. And we are unpacking a topic that touches on that universal drive we all have. You know that feeling?
Oh, yeah.
It's January 1st or it's a Monday morning or you just had a birthday and you decide, this is it. I am going to get healthy. I am going to take control of my life.
The resolution phase, the new me mindset. We all know it.
Right. We all have that drive to be better, to optimize. But there is a massive dark irony sitting right at the center of the material we have today.
It's a huge one.
It's the irony of getting healthy. We're told constantly, move more, join a gym, lift weights, get strong. And 99% of the time, that is the best advice you can get.
Absolutely. 100%. Movement is medicine.
But what happens when the very act of trying to save your health becomes the specific mechanism that endangers it? What happens when the cure causes a catastrophe?
Especially when we are talking about a part of the body that almost nobody associates with the gym. When we talk about exercise injuries, we're usually talking about a pulled hamstring, a tweaked lower back, maybe.
Dropped a weight on your toe?
Dropped a weight on a toe, yeah.
Right, the usual suspects.
We rarely, if ever, think about exercise injuring our vision, our eyes.
That is the curveball in today's deep dive.
Okay.
We are looking at the eyes. Specifically, we are diving into a source titled Pressure Points, Exercise Safety for Diabetic Vision.
It's a great title.
It is. And to be very granular, we are dissecting excerpts from episode 11 of their series, which has the incredibly dramatic title, The Heavy Lift.
The Heavy Lift. It sounds like a noir film.
It really does. And the mission statement for this deep dive is to unpack that title. We want to understand how someone can do everything right, show up, work hard, push themselves to the limit, and end up with a catastrophic injury because of how they did it.
Mm-hmm. It's not because they were weak.
Not at all. It's because they didn't understand the physics of their own body.
Physics is the right word. We're going to be talking a lot about pressure, fluid dynamics, and mechanics today. It's less biology and more engineering, in a way.
Before we get too deep into the narrative, and there's a very compelling narrative involving a character named Wayne, we need to set the ground rules.
Very important.
The source material comes from a persona described as the empathetic educator.
Which I think is a great distinction. It sets the tone immediately. This isn't a dry, scolding medical journal. It's warm. It's a warning given with care.
But, and this is crucial, the source explicitly states, I am an educator, not a doctor. This deep dive in the source material itself is about awareness.
That's the key word, awareness.
It's about community connection. It is not a substitute for professional medical advice.
We have to be crystal clear on that. We are here to analyze the mechanics described in the text. We are not diagnosing anyone.
No.
And the source is very specific about the protocol. If you, the listener, notice changes in your vision, flashes, floaters, a curtain falling, you don't wait.
You don't finish the deep dive.
You don't finish this deep dive. You see an ophthalmologist immediately.
Immediately, not next week. Okay, with that disclaimer firmly in place, let's get into the story. Because the source uses a narrative to really drive this point home. It introduces us to a protagonist named Wayne.
Weightlifter Wayne.
I feel like I know Wayne. I feel like we all know a Wayne. The text introduces him as someone who is determined to beat his diabetes.
Let's pause on that word beat for a second. It's such a loaded term in the health world, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? What does that word signal to you?
It implies a battle. It implies that the disease is an opponent that can be, physically subdued if you just fight hard enough. It's an adversarial relationship.
It's the warrior mindset. We see it everywhere. Kick cancer's butt, beat diabetes. It frames health as a dominance hierarchy. You have to win.
And that psychological framing is crucial to understanding what happens to Wayne. Because if you are trying to beat a disease, you tend to adopt a combat mindset.
You go to war.
You want to fight. You want to push.
Yeah.
And in the context of a gym, pushing usually translates to intensity, to brute force.
Right. Wayne isn't looking for management. He's not looking for balance. He's looking for victory. So let's set the scene. Wayne joins a gym. He walks in there, towel over his shoulder, determination in his eyes. And the text says he heads straight for the heavy bench press.
Of course he does. He bypasses the elliptical. He walks right past the yoga mats.
Why the bench press, though? Why is that the go-to?
Well, think about the symbolism. The bench press is the heavy lift. It is the classic old-school symbol of strength, of power.
It's what you see in movies.
Exactly. If you want to prove to yourself that you aren't sick, that you aren't weak, that you aren't a patient, you go to the bench. You load up the plates. It's a way of reclaiming agency over your body.
I love that analysis. He's reclaiming agency. So visualize this with me. The gym is probably loud, clanging iron, maybe some aggressive music playing.
The smell of chalk and sweat.
Yes. Wayne lies back on the bench. He stares up at the bar. He loads up the weight. Something challenging, something heavy.
This is the moment, the proving ground.
And here is the sequence of events described in the source. And I want to slow this down because every split second here matters. The text is very specific.
Okay.
He grips the bar. He plants his feet. And then he does something that I think 99% of us do instinctively when we're about to lift something heavy.
It's almost a reflex. You don't even think about it.
The text says, he takes a deep breath and he holds it.
That silence right there, that pause,
Yeah.
that is the beginning of the problem. That's the first domino.
He holds it. He unracks the weight. And then the text says he pushes with everything he's got. This is maximum effort. He is straining. He is shaking. And there's a very specific visual cue the source mentions here.
Beet red face.
His face turns beet red. Now, be honest. When you see someone in the gym turning purple during a lift, what do you usually think?
Usually, you think, wow, look at that dedication. That guy is grinding. We interpret it as a sign of high-quality effort.
Exactly. We celebrate the grit. We see that red face and we think he's all in. But the source is telling us that beet red color isn't a badge of honor. It's a warning light.
It's a physiological signal that the internal pressure has reached a critical, perhaps dangerous level. The dashboard is flashing red.
So let's go back to Wayne. He's holding his breath. He's straining. His face is purple-red. He's fighting gravity. And then the climax of the story. The text describes a sudden pop in his right eye.
A pop. Oof.
Just reading that word in the transcript made me wince. A pop.
It's so specific. It's not a tear. It's not an ache. It's a pop, like a balloon or a light bulb.
And it's not just a sound or a sensation. It's followed immediately by a visual disturbance. He sees a dark floater drifting down his field of vision.
That is the terrifying part. Imagine that. You're looking up at the ceiling, straining under the bar, and suddenly it's like someone dropped a glob of black ink into a glass of water right in front of your eye.
A curtain drifting down.
Yeah.
The verdict in the text is blunt. He just blew a blood vessel.
And just like that, the workout is over. The mission to beat diabetes has resulted in a significant setback, specifically to the very organ that diabetes often threatens the eye, the very thing he was trying to protect through health.
It's heartbreaking because, again, Wayne wasn't being lazy. He wasn't skipping his workout. He was trying to do the right thing.
He was all in.
So our mission today is to unpack this specific incident. We need to play forensic investigator. We need to understand the heavy lift. We need to understand why this happened to Wayne, and more importantly, how to exercise without blowing a gasket.
Precisely. We need to break this down into 3 parts. The specific mistake, the anatomy of the diabetic eye, and the physics of the pressure itself.
Let's start with the breakdown. Let's deconstruct the Wayne scenario. The source identifies a specific technical error. It has a fancy name.
It does. It's called the Valsalva Maneuver.
The Valsalva Maneuver. It sounds like a military tactic or an Italian opera.
It's definitely not an opera, though maybe a tragic one in this case.
The text defines it very simply. It is the act of holding your breath and straining simultaneously.
Breath hold plus effort. That's the equation. Simple as that.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I feel like I do this all the time. The source actually lists some everyday occurrences, not just the bench press.
Oh yeah, it's everywhere.
It mentions lift.
It's the classic example, and it's actually a very common time for people to experience pressure-related issues, fainting, even strokes. It is the exact same mechanism as the bench press.
It's funny, but it's true. When we need to exert force, our natural instinct is to lock down our core, right? We take that breath, we trap it in our chest, and we push against it. Why do we do that? Evolution usually has a reason for our instincts.
Oh, there's a very good reason for it. It's about creating internal stability. Think of your torso. You have a spine, which is a column of bones.
Right.
It's flexible, which is great for moving, but bad for bearing heavy loads. If you try to lift a heavy weight with a loose, flexible spine, you risk injury.
You slip a disc, herniate something.
Exactly. So how do you protect the spine? You create an airbag. When you inhale and hold your breath against a closed glottis, that's the Valsalva Maneuver, you are filling your lungs and increasing the pressure in your abdomen. You are turning your soft torso into a rigid cylinder.
Like inflating a tire to make it hard.
Exactly. That's a perfect analogy. And that pneumatic brace supports your spine. It makes you feel solid. It makes you feel stronger. That's why Wayne did it. He wanted to stabilize his body to move that heavy weight. It's a performance-enhancing technique, really.
So mechanically, for the skeleton, it works.
For a professional powerlifter with healthy eyes and healthy blood pressure, it is a recognized technique. It allows them to lift massive weights without breaking their backs. However, and this is the huge however, we aren't talking about a professional powerlifter with perfect physiology here. We are talking about Wayne, and Wayne is diabetic.
And this is where the story shifts from biomechanics to pathology. The source focuses heavily on the anatomy of the diabetic eye.
Yes. We have to understand the terrain we are working with. The text describes the blood vessels in a diabetic eye using one specific word: fragile.
Fragile. That's a scary word when you're talking about your body parts. It's not a word you want associated with, well, anything inside you.
It is. If we connect this to the bigger picture of diabetes, we know that high blood sugar over time acts like a corrosive agent. It damages the inner lining of the blood vessels, the endothelium.
It weakens the walls.
It weakens the walls, it makes them less flexible, and it can cause them to leak.
It's like rust in a pipe. Is that a fair comparison?
A bit like that. Or imagine an old rubber hose that has lost its elasticity. It's been sitting in the sun for years. It becomes brittle.
Okay.
In the eye, specifically the retina, the vessels are microscopic. They're tiny. When they get damaged by sugar, they can develop these tiny bulges. These are called microaneurysms.
Microaneurysms, so like little weak spots.
Think of them like tiny bubbles on the side of a tire. The wall is thin there. It's weak. It's just waiting for a pressure spike.
So contrast this with a healthy eye. What's the difference?
A healthy eye has robust, elastic vessels. If blood pressure spikes, a healthy vessel can stretch. It can absorb the pressure wave and then return to its normal size.
It's got some give.
It's like a fresh rubber band. It stretches and snaps back. The diabetic eye, on the other hand, is structurally compromised. It has no give. It's more like an old, dry twig. You bend it, and it snaps.
So Wayne walks into the gym with these compromised vessels. Does he know they are there?
Probably not. That's the insidious thing about early-stage diabetic retinopathy. You can't feel it. He doesn't have pain. His vision might be 20/20. He might have just passed his eye exam at the DMV, but the structural weakness is there, lurking.
They are a ticking time bomb waiting for a trigger.
Exactly. A series of them all over his retina.
And the trigger is the Valsalva Maneuver. Let's trace that chain reaction the text outlines. Step 1, holding breath plus straining.
Right. You lock the air in, you squeeze the muscles, you create that massive internal pressure in the chest to support the spine. You become that rigid cylinder we talked about.
Okay, step 2, pressure in the head spikes. Now, explain this transfer. Why does squeezing my abs make my head feel like it's going to explode?
It's a plumbing issue, a fluid dynamics problem. The blood in your head needs to drain back to the heart through the veins in your neck, right? The jugular veins.
Okay.
But if the pressure in your chest is massive because you're holding your breath and straining, that blood can't get back in. The door is jammed shut by the pressure. The pressure in the chest is higher than the pressure of the blood trying to get back in.
So it creates a traffic jam, a bottleneck.
A severe traffic jam. The blood backs up. Where does it back up to? The path of least resistance. Up the neck, into the head.
Hence the beet red face. It's literally blood filling up your face.
Exactly. That red face is the visible sign of venous congestion. Your face is literally filling up with blood that has nowhere to go. It can't drain.
And step 3.
Yeah.
This pressure transfers directly to the eye vessels.
The eye is not a separate room. It is connected to the vascular network of the brain. So when the intracranial pressure, the pressure inside the skull spikes, that pressure wave travels down the optic nerve sheath and hits the delicate vessels in the retina.
And if those vessels are already fragile, if they're the old rubber tire with the bubbles,
Pop. That's the pop Wayne felt.
it's terrifyingly simple when you break it down like that. It's not magic. It's not bad luck. It's fluid dynamics. It's cause and effect.
That is the perfect transition, actually, because the source material provides a very specific analogy to help us visualize this mechanics. They call it the garden hose analogy.
Yes. I love a good analogy. It takes the medical jargon and makes it something you can see in your backyard.
Let's walk through the garden hose scenario in detail.
Okay. So imagine a garden hose. But this isn't a brand new, perfect hose from the hardware store.
No, this is the one that's been sitting behind the shed for 5 years.
Exactly. This hose represents the diabetic blood vessels. So the text says, imagine a garden hose that already has a weak spot.
Like maybe it sat in the sun all summer, the rubber's cracked.
Exactly. The rubber is dried out. Maybe there's a little bubble in the side, an aneurysm. It's holding water, but it's compromised. If you look at it wrong, it might leak. Okay, so we have our hose with the weak spot. That's the setup. Now, the text describes 2 actions. The first action is kinking the hose.
The kink. A simple, powerful image.
If you take a running hose and you fold it over, you kink it, what happens?
You stop the flow, but the water is still coming from the source. So the pressure builds up behind the kink. It pushes against the walls of the hose. You can feel the hose get hard.
Right. And in this analogy, the source tells us that kinking the hose represents the strain and the blockage of flow caused by holding your breath. You are stopping the normal circulation. You are creating a blockage in the neck and chest.
So Wayne holding his breath is the kink. That's the action.
Got it. So holding breath equals kinking the hose. Now the catalyst, the second action, the thing that pushes it over the edge.
The catalyst is turning the water on full blast.
That's the heavy bench press.
Correct. That represents the cardiac output, the effort. When you exert maximum effort, your heart pumps harder and faster. You are driving the pressure from the source.
So let's put it all together. You have a weak spot in the hose, the microaneurysm. You block the end of the hose so the water can't get out, the kink, the held breath. And then you crank the faucet to maximum, the full blast, the lift.
You are forcing high-pressure fluid into a closed system with a known structural flaw.
And the result is inevitable. It's not a question of if, but when.
The weak spot bursts. It has to.
That is such a clear image. It really helps you understand that this wasn't random. When you map it back to Wayne, it makes that invisible injury make sense.
Let's do that.
Wayne's fragile eye vessels are the hose with the weak spot.
Check.
Holding his breath was the kink.
Check.
The heavy bench press was the water on full blast.
And the burst was the pop he felt. And the water spraying out. That's the blood leaking into his vision, creating that floater.
You know, what strikes me about this analogy is that it takes the mystery out of it. Sometimes medical things feel like bad luck. Oh, why did this happen to me?
Right, like it's some sort of cosmic punishment.
Yeah. But this explains it as a mechanical failure, a predictable one. It wasn't a random. It was caused by specific forces.
And that is actually empowering. It sounds scary, but it's empowering.
How so? It feels terrifying.
Because if it is mechanical, it means it is preventable. If you understand the mechanics, you can change the outcome, you can unkink the hose, you can control the faucet, you have agency again.
That's the hope here. We aren't just here to tell a horror story. We want to know how to avoid being Wayne. So, let's move into part 3 of our deep dive. The danger zone versus the safe zone.
Let's do it. We need to define the boundaries. What's safe, what's not.
We've identified the bad. The core prohibition in the text is explicitly holding your breath while pushing.
Never do it. It is the cardinal sin of diabetic exercise, according to this source.
And we have that indicator, the red face.
I want to pause on the red face for a second. The text highlights this as a specific warning sign. If your face turns red, the pressure is too high.
It's like a dashboard warning light.
Yeah.
Check engine.
It is, and it's something you can see in the mirror at the gym, or your gym buddy can see. It doesn't require a medical degree. If you look like a tomato, you are in the danger zone. Right. You are doing the Valsalva. You are keeping that pressure in your head.
It's basically your body screaming, I can't drain this blood. Help!
Exactly. It's a visible sign of a plumbing backup.
So, if that's the bad, what is the good? The source lists some safe alternatives. And they seem very different from the heavy bench press.
They are. The list includes walking, swimming, cycling.
Okay, now I can hear some people, maybe people like Wayne, screaming at their speakers right now. Walking, I want to build muscle. I want to beat my diabetes with strength. Walking is boring.
It feels like a downgrade, right? Like you're being told you can't really work out anymore.
It does. But let's look at why the text lists these as safe. What is the physiological difference? Why is cycling safer than bench pressing for the eyes?
The key phrase in the text is rhythmic, continuous movement.
Rhythmic. Continuous. Not explosive.
No. Think about walking or cycling. You aren't doing a sudden, explosive movement against a massive resistance. You are moving steadily. Left foot, right foot. Pedal, pedal. Your muscles are contracting and relaxing in a rhythm.
And what does that do to the heart rate and blood pressure? What does that do for the hose?
A text says the heart rate rises steadily, not suddenly.
That's the distinction, the rate of change.
It is. In the bench press, you go from 0 to maximum strain in 1 second. That causes a pressure spike. It's a shock wave. It's like a water hammer in old pipes.
Okay.
In cycling, you start pedaling. Your heart rate goes from 70 to 80 to 90 over the course of minutes. Your blood pressure rises gradually with it.
It's a ramp, not a cliff.
Precisely. And because it's a gradual ramp, the blood vessels have time to react. They have time to dilate, to open up wider, to handle the increased flow. There's no sudden shock to the system, no sudden water on full blast against a kinked hose.
So the hose expands to handle the water instead of bursting.
Exactly. The system accommodates the effort. And crucially, you are breathing the whole time. You can't hold your breath for a 30-minute bike ride.
No, you can't.
The activity itself forces you to keep the system open.
That makes total sense. So for a diabetic eye with fragile vessels, that gentle slope is safe. The steep spike is dangerous.
Correct. It's all about avoiding those acute pressure spikes.
But let's play devil's advocate for a second. Let's say Wayne, or someone listening, really wants to lift something. Maybe not a max bench press, but they need to lift a suitcase into an overhead bin.
A real-world application.
Yeah, or they want to do some resistance training because they know muscle is good for metabolism, for glucose control. Is the takeaway, never lift anything heavy ever again?
That's a great question. Is he banned from gravity? No. The source doesn't say don't move. It doesn't say only walk. It says there's a rule for how to handle effort.
The how-to for lifting, the safe way.
The golden rule stated in the text is breathe through the effort.
Breathe through the effort. It sounds simple. It sounds like something a yoga teacher says.
It does, but here it is a mechanical instruction for safety. It's a pressure release valve. The text repeats, never hold your breath.
So if I'm pushing that suitcase,
you should be exhaling. You should be letting air out of your mouth as you push.
why? Mechanically, what does breathing out do? How does that unkink the hose?
Remember, the Valsalva Maneuver requires trapping air. It requires a closed glottis, that little flap in your throat.
Yes.
You cannot trap air if you are letting it out. If you are exhaling, your glottis is open. If your glottis is open, the pressure in your chest cannot build up to those dangerous levels. You've created an escape route for the pressure.
So the act of breathing out is literally opening the valve.
Exactly. You are unkinking the hose while the water is running. Even if the heart is pumping hard from the effort, the pressure can't spike in the head because the system is open. The traffic jam is cleared.
That is a critical distinction. Effort isn't the enemy. Blockage is the enemy.
Yes, trapped pressure is the enemy.
The text mentions making noise, like a grunt. Is that a real thing?
If that helps, yes. You often hear boxers make a hiss sound when they punch, or tennis players grunt when they serve.
The grunt. We usually think that's just showing off or being overly dramatic.
Or aggression. But it's actually a safety valve. That noise forces the glottis open. It forces air out. If air is escaping, pressure cannot build up in the head. You are effectively protecting your brain and your eyes from the pressure wave of the exertion.
That is a great visualization. So the grunt is good. The silence, the red-faced, strained silence of Wayne is bad.
Exactly. If you are silent and turning red, you are a pressure cooker. If you are grunting or exhaling, you are a steam engine releasing steam.
Be the steam engine. I like that. I'm going to remember that.
You want to be the steam engine, not the pressure cooker.
So the protocol is breathe continuously, exhale on the exertion, and the self-check mechanism is the face color.
Correct. Monomer color. If you see beet red, stop immediately. You are pushing too hard, or you are holding your breath, or both. You've slipped back into the danger zone. Reset and try again with less weight and a focus on breathing.
Now, we need to circle back to the disclaimer and the context of this source one more time, because we've been talking about protocols and rules, and we've analyzed Wayne almost like a case study. But this is real life.
And the stakes are incredibly high. We're talking about vision.
The source puts a heavy emphasis on the empathetic educator persona. They are sharing a story to save others from pain, but they're very clear. This is for awareness and community connection.
Right. It's about sharing the lesson Wayne learned the hard way so that you don't have to. It's a peer sharing wisdom, not a doctor writing a prescription.
The text emphasizes that if you have experienced something like this, if you have that pop or that floater, you don't just listen to a podcast. You go to the doctor.
See an ophthalmologist immediately. That is the emergency protocol. Not tomorrow. Not after you finish your workout.
Not your GP.
Yeah.
Why an ophthalmologist specifically?
No, an eye specialist. Because if a vessel has blown, blood is leaking into the vitreous humor, the clear gel inside the eye. That blood is toxic to the retina. It can cause scarring. As the scar tissue shrinks, it can pull on the retina.
Pull on the retina. What does that mean?
It can lead to retinal detachment, which is a blinding condition. The retina literally peels off the back of the eye like wallpaper.
So a moment of silence on the bench press can lead to permanent blindness if not treated.
Exactly. Time is tissue. The longer you wait, the more damage occurs. If you catch it early, they can often treat it. Laser, surgery. If you wait, the damage can be permanent.
It really puts into perspective how high the stakes are. We think of exercise as this purely positive thing. I went to the gym. I'm a hero.
And it is. It is positive.
But for the diabetic community, specifically regarding vision, there is this hidden layer of risk management that needs to happen.
It's about exercising smart, not just exercising hard. Knowledge is the safety valve. Wayne had the determination. He had the strength. He lacked the knowledge of pressure mechanics.
That's the tragedy of Weightlifter Wayne. Determination met with a lack of knowledge.
And that's why this deep dive is important, to bridge that gap, to give people the toolkit so they can keep moving safely, so they can lift their suitcase or play with their grandkids without fear.
So as we wrap up this exploration of the heavy list, let's summarize the lesson here. If we could put this on a bumper sticker for Wayne, what would it say?
The lesson is, exercise is vital. You cannot stop moving. But if you have diabetic vision, or really if you want to protect your eyes in general, breath control is non-negotiable. It's as important as your form.
The breath is the key. It's the difference between a good workout and a blown vessel.
And remember the garden hose. Keep the flow steady. Don't kink the line. Ever.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We talked about the gym. We talked about Wayne. But I want you to take this concept out of the gym and into your kitchen, into your garage.
The everyday Valsalva. It's everywhere.
Exactly. Think about your day tomorrow. Think about the everyday moments where you might be accidentally performing a Valsalva maneuver, lifting a heavy suitcase into the car, moving furniture to vacuum behind it.
Pushing a car that's stuck in the snow. It happens more than you think.
Or maybe, and this is the one that gets me, the one I catch myself doing all the time, it's just opening a stuck jar of pickles.
That is the classic hidden danger, the pickle jar.
But you grab the lid, you brace your feet, you take a breath, you hold it, you squeeze, you turn purple.
You're doing the Wayne.
You are doing exactly what Wayne did, just on a smaller scale. You're kinking the hose and turning on the water.
Mechanically, it is identical. The forces are just scaled down.
So my challenge to you is, can you catch yourself? Can you breathe through the pickle jar? Next time you grab that jar, can you consciously exhale as you twist?
Breathe through the pickle jar. That's good advice for life, I think.
It's the little things. Bring the mindfulness of the heavy lift into the heavy lifts of everyday life. Stay safe out there. Keep moving, but keep breathing. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
Let's take care.